Let's start with the environment because environmental groups have petitioned Parliament demanding a cessation of mining activities in the Atewa Forest Reserve. It was led by Musiga's president, Bias Osekufo. The groups say mining in the forest will destroy available water to various parts of the country. Let's hear from some of the protesters.
Currently, Atewa supplies water, or is a source of water for about 5 million Ghanaians. The Brim River, Densu River, they all take their sources from the Atewa Forest, and it drains all the way to the Weja Dam, which supplies water for almost half of Accra. Then on the tributary from Brim coming, people also fetch water. All the communities, they fetch water from the Atewa, from the rivers that flow from Atewa. Then again, the Atewa Forest Reserve is categorized as globally significant biodiversity area. What that means is that it has certain species of flora and fauna that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. And so it needs to be protected under Ghanaian laws. And rightfully so, Ghana designated those areas as a protected forest. And so to mine in a protected forest is to go against the laws of the state. So that is the second thing that we are telling Parliament, that they need to invoke their oversight to ensure that the laws that they have made is not sidestepped by any other body.
There's a forest called Atewa Forest, which provides water for 5 million Ghanaians. Aside that, the inhabitants in that area who are farmers rely on the forest heavily for their cocoa farming and other farm produce. And government is making efforts to mine the forest. Of course, it is important for government to also raise revenue. But again, this is a dilemma situation. Do I go in for the gold, satisfy people and lose water, which is also providing life, or I sit at base? We just want a better consideration for government, and that's why we are asking Parliament to also come in so that they can also reflect on the issue more dispassionately and more unpolitically, you know.
We'll be talking to some of the protesters more on this, but after a march on the street of Accra, they presented their petition to the majority leader and other leaders in Parliament.
The issue about mining really is a matter that we should apply critical thinking to. We want development for our people. We want development for the country. And yet we all do know that development should also be structured in such a way that development itself is sustainable. So resource should be sustainably used. Resource, in other words, should be sustainably exploited and utilized. People talk about the damage that mining inflicts on the soil and depriving the people, the citizens, of eternal use of the land. Conversely, if you have good arrangements to utilize the resource, they could also accelerate development.
Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu there earlier in Parliament when the group went there to present their petition. I have here in the studio Daryl Bosu. He's with Arusha, Ghana, and part of those who have been protesting the mining in the Atewa Forest Reserve. Daryl, it's been a while. It's not been so long since you came here on the studio, but today you presented your petition to Parliament. Can you take us through exactly what's in the petition?
Okay, so as you all know, we've been trying to get the attention of state agencies and also policymakers with regards to plans to mine Atewa. And all this while we see that government is deliberately ignoring all the messages we have. So we thought we try to exhaust all the options we have before we actually proceed with an option that will also really take all of us going to court. And I think that we have already indicated. But today we decided to go and meet with Parliament. And the reason why we did that was that we know Parliament has got supervisory role in terms of signing of agreements and all of that. It is Parliament that makes the laws that set aside forest reserves to provide us certain services. So we went to Parliament invoking those oversight responsibility, oversight role, asking them to actually take a critical look at the agreements that come before them, particularly because this is a mining concession, and if it gets to Parliament, they need to look at it and really see the merit of it before they go ahead to. So we took that to Parliament and said, look at it, ensure that you invoke your supervisory role and make sure that the right thing is done. That's one of it. And then secondly, we're also saying that we have made the statement that we don't, Atewa should be part of this area to be mined. And this is something we are still stressing. Parliament can do something about it, because eventually it gets to them, they can also say, okay, you can do bauxite anywhere, but based on these trade-off analysis, opportunity costs and all of that, the water service and all of that, here is a no-go area. They set the laws. So basically, we're trying to get them to do that. And then we're also concerned about some of the contracts that Parliament also has been churning out. A lot of them, particularly in relation to environmental contracts, where they don't make sure they really look at existing laws and all of that before they even go ahead to agree to these things. So these are some of the things we are asking Parliament to look at, because we participated in the final enactment of the GIADEC. That's the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation. We participated. We even made some suggestions to Parliament on what should be done. So we want to also make sure that this process going forward, we want Parliament to make sure due diligence is respected. And also communities are engaged. All of these things are not being done, but we are seeing certain steps, all of which, most of them are illegal. And we are saying that Parliament should say, okay, look, you should stop this. Let's do the right things before we move forward. So basically, these are some of the things we are asking of Parliament.
Okay, so you were received, the majority leader, you spoke to him, he addressed the media. What do you make of the response that you got from Parliament following your petition?
Well, I think that his response really didn't say anything we've not heard before. He said they are going to look at it. They've received it wholeheartedly, and they will discuss it dispassionately, and they will eventually get back to us. So we also recognize that he also recognized the need for development and all of that. Like I say, these arguments will always come, but there is more to this than just making that argument. Yeah.
Having spoken about the majority leader, one thing I want to draw your attention to, which he said, was that if you have good arrangements that protect whatever it is that these your protests are meant to protect, then really we're done here. We've done the work, because the bottom line is to protect the forest reserve. He says if there are good arrangements that can help government, or that can help the country to make, so to speak, kill two birds with one stone. You protect
mosquitoes.
you protect the environment,
yeah,
and then you also make money off of the natural resources. He says that there are good arrangements. Does this give you any confidence that what you're seeking, which is a complete no to mining in the Atewa Forest, will be considered at all by Parliament? Okay,
so this is something we have always been saying, that these statements of good arrangement, responsible mining, they are all just to really appeal to the public. But in actual fact, it is not possible.
Why do you
Bauxite
say so?
Mining as a technology, as an extractive industry anywhere in the world, has never been compatible with a watershed like Atewa. And the examples are all over the places, okay? So that's why we have said that if they keep saying good arrangement, they need to show us what those good arrangements are. Okay. All they say is good arrangement. What are those good arrangements? Good arrangements start with transparency. Good arrangements start with due diligence, environmental impact assessment, and all of that. These key things that tenets of good arrangement has not been done. So what do they mean by good arrangement? I guess they're just trying to appeal to the public. And this is where we all need to be very, very careful. I acknowledge that as leaders of this country, when they say something, we all tend to listen to it. But we also need to cross-check. Bauxite mining has never been compatible with a watershed like Atewa. And the examples abound in this world. So we are not really assured enough or giving enough confidence that this good arrangement is actually possible.
To what extent are you confident that this fight or this campaign will actually yield the fruits? Because the people that you're petitioning are the ones who are saying, if there are good management, you get the point.
I get your point.
So already before you even go there with their petition, they already seem to have a stance. So bringing in Parliament, to what extent do you think it will actually deal with the problem that you are raising?
Well, we have also always said that it is important we get to discuss the issue and see what we are putting forward. Because whether we like it or not, the repercussions of mining in the watershed will come back to us. We're already struggling with water issues and all of that. This is one of the most important water towers in this country. If you are going to dig it up and you can tell everyone that it is not going to bring any negative impact, that's for us is not proven. And we are actually saying that this is something we all need to be concerned about. We know they have a position, but we're also telling them that there's something, the right thing must be done. That position, if they are really thinking about the future, they will have to go back to the drawing board and do the right thing. And so far, that is what they are failing to do.
So far, that is what they're failing to do. We want to get to Parliament and speak to our parliamentary correspondent, because in Parliament as well, there has been this conversation ongoing. In fact, Joseph Opoku spoke to the sector minister, who maintains that what government is doing in this forest reserve is essentially sustainable mining. Sustainable mining that will end up protecting the environment. So I don't know if you've heard the minister say that.
I've heard.
But this is what he says. He says what they're doing is sustainable mining. Your position is that what are the details of the sustainable mining they talk about?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's very interesting to hear the minister say they are doing sustainable mining. Sustainable mining starts with an environmental impact assessment. That has not been done. And yet you have your bulldozers in the forest clearing forest. It's never heard anywhere. So I guess it's just trying to appeal to the interests of the public.
Let's see if we can raise Joseph Opoku on the line and get to speak to him more about some of the defense, or if you like, the arguments being advanced on the side of government. Joseph joins us on the line. Joseph. Hello, Joseph.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So the minister spoke to you, and he indicated that what they're doing is what he calls sustainable mining, which eventually will protect the environment and also make sure that we make money off of the natural reserves and natural resources that we have.
And that's the explanation he gives. And he says that the geologists and other experts at the level of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and also the various state institutions, are bearing in mind the fact that Atewa holds a lot of environmental biodiversity, and that it's a key area worth protected. And so they will take the necessary steps to ensure that water bodies that lie within are not affected, and that the various vegetations are not destroyed. And I did put it to him that the environmentalists have told us that when you look at how bauxite mining is done, you need to fetch off virtually all the sand and go to the refinery of the sand, which means you necessarily need to bring down trees and you necessarily need to dig off the soil from the area in order to be able to get the bauxite out of the soil. But he says that is not the kind of explanation that they are getting as to how the mining of the bauxite would be done. And so he doesn't see any substance in the claim that water bodies will be destroyed and that Ghana will be worse off if the mining goes ahead in Atewa.
But then does he provide any information as to how exactly the mining is going to take place?
He only makes the point that they are avoiding specific places where the water bodies run through, which then serves as the source of water for areas like Accra and all. And additionally, they are paying key attention to those specific areas where the biodiversity in terms of wildlife exists, and those are areas that they are not touching, but then they are focusing on other places that would end up not destroying the environment.
Joseph, hang on. I'm going to come to you before we wrap up. But Daryl, this point that Joseph raises as being a response that he got from the minister kind of makes sense, doesn't it? When he says that they're going to, part of the sustainable mining he talks about is avoiding the places where you have these water bodies and avoiding the places that have these biodiversity reserves that we want to protect. Isn't that enough?
I also heard the point where he said the minister said that's not what he has been told. But we are saying that the process of bauxite mining is going to destroy the forest, because bauxite mining involves you pulling down the forest and then digging away the topsoil. Eventually,
that's what he said. They have not been told by those who are mining.
Yeah, but that is very interesting that as he needs to know this. If he does not know this, then I guess he is not well informed about what really is bauxite mining, and we want to challenge him on that any time. That's why we are saying they should show us. They should pick any model anywhere in the world. They can pick it from Australia, South Africa, wherever. They should show Ghanaians how they are going to do the bauxite mining, not destroy the forest, not destroy the animal habitat, and also not destroy water. But they should show us.
Okay.
That they have not done as yet.
That they have not done as yet. Joseph, let me just come back to you again. Beyond talking to the minister, or beyond having the minister respond to some of these concerns by the protesters, is there anything else that went on in Parliament concerning this petition?
And just to touch on that quickly before I move on,
yeah.
he actually cited examples of mining activities that he says are happening in forest reserve areas in the country already, which is
in this country? In this country?
In this country.
Right.
And says that it's happening and it's not destroying the environment in that enclave, and that's the model that they hope to go with so they don't destroy the forest. But on other things in Parliament, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, in fact, we got to him to speak to him because he was on the floor of Parliament to respond to questions having to do with rosewood harvesting in the Kalapaya Forest Wildlife Reserve, the Bota region, which, according to one of the MPs in the enclave, they have information to the effect that despite the ban on rosewood harvesting, it's been happening there. And so he summoned the minister to come respond to questions on that. And the minister told members of Parliament that as far as they are concerned, the ban is enforced. There was a situation of some of the residents in the area who he described as illegal settlers going ahead to cut down rosewood trees in the area. And they were arrested by the police and they are being prosecuted. And so after the arrest, the rosewood logs that have been brought down had to be cleared out of the forest. And so that's the only kind of clearance that they gave contract to a company to go clear out of the forest. But the ban on rosewood harvesting remains in force, and they are committed to enforcing that to the latter, he told Parliament.
Is there anything else we need to know from Parliament, Joseph?
Well, today there have also been the approval for a number of documents, including approval that has been given for some educational projects that are expected to commence in the country. But sometime next week, it's expected that the Ministers for Interior as well as the Ministers for Education and two others will be appearing before the House. And that's according to the business statement for next week that was actually read. And additionally, the majority leader of State Mensabon indicated that sometime next week they'll begin work on the vigilantism and related offences bill, which is currently before the House.
Joseph, thank you very much. We'll be keeping an eye on all of those. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. I'm coming back to you, Daryl. He mentioned a point and then you were nodding, whether you were nodding or in disagreement or shaking your head. Nodding in agreement or shaking your head in disagreement, I don't know. But he said that the minister indicated that there is a particular model here in Ghana of bauxite mining, which is already ongoing, and that model is what we're adopting here. You know about this? It
is unfortunate. If you had told me earlier, I would have showed you the kind of devastation at the only bauxite mine in this country. Awasu, you know of it. You've heard of the recent arrests at the mine where workers are talking about unsatisfactory conditions of service and all of that. That is the site I'm sure he's talking about, because that's the only bauxite mine in this country. You should have seen pictures of that place now. It's been turned into an earthenware bowl if you look at it from the top. That is what they are going to turn Atewa into. So where lies that sustainability? It's just a decision to destroy a landscape. It's basically that. So I think if he's really going to look at a Ghana example, then that is the worst ever example he can give us. He should come again.
He should come again as the worst example. That is Daryl Bosu there with Arusha, Ghana. So eventually, you've gone to Parliament. You want to share with us the next move, expectation from what you have
I think you know our next move already.
No, from Parliament. Yeah. They've received the document.
Yes.
I don't know if you have a timeline within which you're waiting for the response, the kind of response that perhaps satisfies you. Or?
Well, we can't give Parliament a deadline. The honourable majority that assured us that they will have a look at it. So we are going to let them take their time and look at it. But other engagement processes will continue as indicated before. Right. Yes.
Daryl, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much as well.
Daryl Bosu is with Arusha, Ghana. They are part of the environmental groups that are defending or that are demanding cessation of mining activities, bauxite mining activities in the Atewa Forest Reserve. You've had responses from the minister and then you've also heard from Parliament, whom they petitioned today.